Hey, it's Matt Pinfield. It's KLOS, new and approved. And my guest tonight is the incredible Matt Cameron, one of my favorite drummers in the world, from two of my favorite bands, Soundgarden and Pearl Jam. And he's done a lot of other things as well, and it's going to be so great to catch up with Matt right now. Matt, it's great to see you.
It's great to see you as well, Matt. Thanks for having me on.
You know, it's been a bit, and I ran into you. I think one of the last times was probably a Hana festival, although I've seen...
it was also the Ohana Festival, and then didn't we see each other at the Taylor
Taylor tribute
Memorial?
Yeah, absolutely.
I think I saw you there as well,
which was heartbreaking, of course, for all of us, And,
he was a huge friend and huge part of my life. So I was really happy to be there and take part in that amazing concert.
Yeah, it was an incredible concert, and
it sure was, man.
It was great to see everybody come out for that, and it was just what a beautiful tribute to an incredible man, And that made two concerts in tribute to after the one for Chris, which I just gotten out of the hospital. I was literally in a wheelchair after I got hit by that car, and when a person was texting and ran into me, I had a broken leg, so I still came. You know what I mean? Like on a walker, and they reeled me in.
Dude. Well, I don't know if I remember seeing you there, but thanks for putting so much effort into being there.
Yeah, no, there's no way I couldn't do it. It was great. I want to talk to you about so many things, Matt. Recently, you put out the EP. It's now available for fans for streaming. It was there for Record Store Day. But
that's right.
So tell me about that. Gory Screech Cretins, and because you've been friends with the Melvins since like 85.
Pretty much, man. Ever since I moved to Seattle in 83, I was aware of them around 84, and then we did the band I was playing with at the time in the early 80s, Skin Yard, was on a compilation record called Deep Six.
Yeah.
And so the Melvins were on that album, and I got to see them for, I think, the first time when we did a record release party for that album. But fast forward to 2019, I contacted Buzz about taking part in this Chris Cornell tribute concert that we all did. And I really wanted them to be a part of it because they were such a huge part of our music community, and Soundgarden played shows with those guys, and we were just always in awe of the Melvins. So I contacted Buzz about the concert, and then after the concert, I just sort of sent him another email saying, thank you for taking part, and hey, if you ever want to do something, I'd love to, collaborate on some music, on a record, whatever. And he was just like, yeah, for sure, come down, So I went down to their studio outside of Burbank in, I guess, mid 2019, and just recorded a bunch of music that I had kicking around, and they were like totally on board, really supportive, and so that music that we recorded in 2019 didn't come out until last November for it was the Black Friday Record Store Day release. I had been sitting on it for a couple years, and I wanted to put it out in a way that paid homage to the Melvins and was kind of a one-off. Which they do a lot. They collaborate with other musicians, other bands, and so they're very active that way, which is really fun.
Yeah, and they've been such a part of the history of the Pacific Northwest music scene, and kind of catalysts with so many things and connections with people,
Absolutely. They were from, Aberdeen, Montesano, and so they grew up with, what became Nirvana, and so we, in Soundgarden, we were definitely, very aware of them and really supportive of them when we all started playing gigs together in the early 80s.
Yeah, it's amazing looking back on all of that. It's great. I mean, the last time I remember you and I in the studio in '96 doing an album special for Down on the Upside. What's so great is I did
Really?
King Animal too after So all those years later, I got to do the next one. It was great. There was the reconnect, which was beautiful.
I was trying to think, like, the first time we met, it was probably when you were on 120 Minutes, like early 90s. So we've known each other for over 30 years, bro.
Yeah, we have. We've known each other for over 30 years because my first show there was 93. And so, but it's amazing because I was such a huge fan and a big supporter in my like college and commercial radio days, with Screaming Life, you know what I mean? And FOP, and then Ultra Mega OK, like going, from Sub Pop to SST, to when you guys got signed, and and I just I think back about it, and it's really incredible. When I always want to talk to you about your drumming because I know we had a conversation about you as a young kid. I think if I remember correctly, my memory serves me well. You actually seen Buddy Rich as a kid or something like
that? My dad took me to see Buddy Rich when I was about 13, 12 or 13, something like that. He played in San Diego where I grew up. And my dad was a big jazz aficionado. So he had a lot of jazz records kicking around the house. And one of the pivotal like records for me was Dave Brubeck live at Oberlin College. He kept playing that record for me. And I didn't really click with jazz music until I saw, Buddy Rich, and he took me to go see Count Basie a couple times. But yeah, seeing that Buddy Rich show was kind of, pretty mind blowing for me because Buddy was probably, still kind of in his prime. And it was a monumental kind of moment just in terms of like I was a young kid, just started to get serious about drumming, and then I got to see like one of the greatest ever.
Absolutely.
So it was huge. I just remember like watching his hands. It's like they were a blur. It's like, how can anyone do that?
Yeah. And then, and what you've done, and one of your favorite drummers as a kid was absolutely Keith Moon, right? I mean, Keith is,
oh man,
he's one of my all-time favorites as well. Still, right? Exactly. I mean, he was.
Just talk about like unorthodox and 1000% original, and a showman, like and then like I think the Who Live at Leeds is like one of the greatest live albums ever. So yeah, Keith was huge. A lot of the early British guys, Mitch Mitchell, Ginger Baker, and of course John Bonham, Cozy Powell was huge for me. But my first rock record I ever had when I was like 13 or 14 was Jimi Hendrix Smash Hits. So Mitch Mitchell was a huge influence on me growing up, as was Jimmy. Jimmy kind of opened the doors in terms of just being like just in awe of this, just music from a different galaxy. It just had this element to it that I'd never heard of, never experienced. And then from that point on, I heard Deep Purple. I mean, Ian Pace is another huge influence on me as a young kid. Deep Purple, Zeppelin, Jethro Tull. I didn't have a whole lot of records growing up, but my older sister had records, and then kids in the neighborhood had records that I listened to.
That's what I did too. It was like we didn't have a lot of money, so it was like if I wasn't mowing lawns or delivering papers to buy records, I was borrowing it from my older brother or sister or my neighbors. I said
that's right. That's right. That's how music got passed around in the early days. Yeah,
it's absolutely true. And I'm glad you mentioned Jethro Tull because those old records are great, man. People don't give them a lot of credit. They're incredible, those albums.
Absolutely, man.
They were such a great band and another original band. I mean, you listen to Benefit and, obviously, Aqualung and War Child. I love all those records. And they're like the first band I saw live in 1975 at Madison Square Garden, War Child.
Nice.
I couldn't believe this guy Ian Anderson was running across the stage, flipping and playing the flute at the same time, like on his shoulders. I was like, it was mind-blowing to see.
Yeah, they don't make them like that anymore. I never got to see him live, but yeah, I was a huge fan.
Yeah, and I always defend and say, they were one of the biggest bands in the world at that period.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Everybody listened to them.
They were on the radio all the time. It was just a weird sort of very British take on rock music, with a flute, for crying out loud. It's like, who would have thunk?
Yeah, it's
But it
funny.
worked.
I'll tell you, Matt, he told me a story once when I was doing an interview with him that he said once he heard Eric Clapton play, he said he'd never be as good as that. So he walked in an instrument store and he said he saw a flute on the wall and said, I'll have one of those. That's what he said, which I thought was great. What a great,
all the guitars were taken, so it's like, yeah, I'll take a flute.
Yeah. It's amazing how he ended up doing that and then writing so many great songs. So that was
Absolutely.
You as a kid, and you were in San Diego, and and then eventually moved up to Seattle, right?
Yeah, I turned 20. I had played in a band with a guy named Glenn Slater, who moved to Seattle and started a band up there. We kept in touch, and he just, recommended that I come up there and join his band. I wasn't really doing much. I mean, I was like going to school, and I was in like community college, and I wasn't really a serious student by any means, but I was really into playing my drums, and at that time I played in one band in San Diego that wrote original material. And I felt like that was a really fun experience for me after playing in cover bands and things like that. So, so, it was pretty much a moon launch for me. And when I moved up there in '83, I had no plans other than living with my friends' parents, sleeping on their couch. And
you worked in a Kinko's, right? Like, I mean,
yeah, I worked at Kinko's.
Everybody, did something like that. You had to do that at that period of time.
Yeah.
And I was.
Yeah. So I just, bunch of day jobs to support our, our love of playing gigs and stuff like that.
Yeah. I mean, it's fantastic when of course, you were the best drummer in the area, and
I don't know
easily,
about that.
But that's how Soundgarden felt, and of course.
Well, I mean, when I came to Seattle, I kind of had some experience. Like I had already played in a bunch of bands. I took lessons from a great teacher named John Santo, who turned me on to a bunch of really cool, like avant-garde 20th century classical music. So I kind of had like, I felt like I had a pretty like extensive toolkit by the time I moved there. But my main love was rock music. And yeah, when I first went up there, I sort of like, I found my guys sort of pretty, like within a year or year and a half of moving there. I'd met Kim, Chris, Hero, and then the guys in Skin Yard, Jack and Dino. It's like kind of immediately, it felt like. So there was a pretty like vibrant local music scene even back then. But one thing I did really appreciate about it was it just seemed kind of isolated, like nobody really cared about Seattle or like, so it felt like it was a really cool self-contained little universe that we just sort of created on our own. So I loved the community of the local music scene immediately, and I just plugged myself right in
and became friends with everybody. And I mean, you guys were all supporting each other in those bands and going to each other's shows, right?
Well, it was so small that like we didn't really draw that bigger crowds other than the guys that were in the same bands in the same scene. So yeah, it was really a great supportive environment, which helped a lot of us develop as musicians.
Yeah, I mean, it's certainly it's amazing the amount of talent that came out of that area, and you had again because that incubator of having that closeness, which was really cool.
Well, I think like we were also part of just a bigger underground rock scene in America and Western Europe at that time in the '80s. We had like promoters, we had clubs, we had record labels. Working at Kinko's Copies, like I would make an extra 500 copies for free of my fellow bandmates that were promoting their shows and stuff like that. So. Yeah, it was real self-contained, which was really awesome.
That's amazing. You look back at when you guys first put the put out Screaming Life and then FOP, which was so cool that you did an Ohio Players cover. I mean, just whose idea was that to do that?
I think it was Hero's idea. Hero and Kim were I think it was their idea. Yeah. But we were really into like Ohio Players and Funkadelic,
Yeah.
We loved Funkadelic.
Yeah, which is so great. I'm sure you've seen that Tales from the Tour Bus with George Clinton.
Oh, yeah.
It's the best. I mean, those cartoons and the Outlaw Country season, they're amazing. Like,
it's amazing.
More people should have definitely seen it. If they haven't, should check out the Mike Judge cartoon series. It's incredible. When you guys, I know you were on SST, of course, too, for Ultra Mega OK, but then got signed to A&M. And what was that when you first started really hitting the road? What year was that, Matt, that you started touring with Soundgarden?
Yeah. For A&M, the A&M record? Or in general?
Yeah, in general. It was a few years before.
80, late 86. Like I joined in 86. We put out Screaming Life in 87, and then we hit the road like immediately. So yeah, we started in around 87.
It's amazing. I remember you guys playing New Jersey, New York,
like
all the places,
Sure.
Like City Gardens. There were some.
We had a Sub Pop single out before our EP came out, and we played at CB's. Like our first show in New York City was at CB's. We opened for Das Damen, and there were people at CB's that knew the lyrics to Hunted Down and Nothing to Say, and it was just like, New York, Boston, Chicago, Philly, all of the kind of East Coast, Midwestern, cities embraced us immediately. So it was like, it felt like a home away from home,
Yeah, it was amazing. Just how the buzz that was on
Detroit embraced us immediately. Like all the hard rock cities, the blue collar hard rock cities, like they got it.
Yeah, they wanted to rock. You know what I mean? It was great. Yeah, and Hunted It Down. I mean, right from the get go, right? I mean, it was amazing.
I mean, the statement was complete. It sounded like a band that, I mean, I don't want to toot our own horn or anything, but it just sounded like a band that was almost fully realized, at that early stage. And a lot of that is of course because of Chris, but I mean, I remember listening back to those mixes that Jack did of Screaming Life, and I was just like, huh, what? It's like I remember recording it and I remember rehearsing, and I just joined the band at that time, but yeah, it sounded fucking huge. So
yeah, I mean, immediately that's the thing that we noticed about it. I was playing it, playing it on college radio, right, and then commercial radio. But we were all over it. It was
nice. Thanks, brother.
Which was great. You know what I mean? I mean, I will never forget that. I also will never forget when the first A&M album came out, and everything from Hands All Over to Get on the Snake and all the songs we were playing. I mean, we were all over those records. So
we appreciate it, man. It was, like we didn't have overnight success or anything like that when we jumped onto A&M, but back in those days, 80s, we signed in 88, I guess, something like that. A&M were so great to us because they didn't drop us after the first record didn't really do much. They were in for the long haul with us, and I don't think that happens anymore with younger bands. It's like you sort of have to make a immediate impact. So hats off to A&M. They were a really, really great label, great people. When we did sign with them, they were actually an independent label. That's before they were bought out by
Universal eventually.
Universal, something like that. Yeah. So it was a really great it was a great partnership for sure. They stuck with us, man. They stuck with us because it was a long haul.
Hey, well, what's so cool about it was that's the thing I remember is everybody I knew that worked over there were believers from like the college department of people all the way up to commercial radio.
That's right.
They were definitely in it for the long haul, which was great.
Yeah, and I think a lot of bands from our generation, they were real lucky to get on these supportive labels and managers and promoters, and it was a different time for sure.
Yeah, and having people that that really cared about it, and
Yeah.
So let's talk about when Ben joined the band. Ben Shepherd joined Soundgarden,
Okay.
because Ben, what an incredible talent, and it felt
Oh,
like
huge.
when you two got together, the groove was so in pocket, but it also allowed so much breathing in the band, and it was amazing. I mean, he was already
Yeah.
in bands in Seattle too. Talk to me
Oh,
about
yeah.
meeting him like
Yeah.
the first
We
time
we worked together on a project called Hater.
with John
Um,
McBain, right? For
uh,
Monster Magnet.
yeah, and with John McBain and Wellwater Conspiracy. So Ben and I had a really nice outlet for all this other music that we were writing outside of Soundgarden. But yeah, you're right. When he joined, it was just a jolt of more creative energy. Hero, Kim, and myself and Chris were, there was a lot of chemistry there creatively. But when Ben joined, I sort of like stepped up my game in terms of songwriting, contributing as a creative member. And I think, Ben being there really gave me a lot of confidence to do that. I mean, as did, Kim and Chris. They were always really encouraging to me to, contribute this music that I had been writing on my own. So yeah, but Ben had a really good sensibility in terms of like, we loved Captain Beefheart, we loved Glenn Gould, we loved all this kind of weird stuff that wasn't necessarily, hard rock music like the type that we were making. So um yeah, it really opened up a lot of possibilities for the band. And I also think it gave Chris um, the ability to just to go as far as he could go as well. Like he didn't have to worry about, oh, these guys can't play my music, or I'm going to be hindered by their lack of abilities and things like that. So yeah, so it was a really really creative time for the band when he first joined.
It's amazing, Bad Motorfinger, and it's and you look at it, you take those songs and you take Jesus Christ Pose, which you co-wrote. Just, I mean,
Yeah.
the the time signatures on the songs and the changes are just what make it so great and so unique. Why I just, I mean, I was already a huge fan of the band, but man, when you guys started doing and writing the songs that are on that record, you know what I mean? I was just like, wow. I mean, we were knocked out by Bad Motorfinger. And, I
Thanks,
think
man.
about it now. I want to ask you, what did you think of how great was it when Johnny Cash stripped down Rusty Cage, and like with Marty Stewart, they were playing on like David Letterman, and it's just like making that song like a country song, like in the style of Johnny
Oh
Cash.
man,
It was
it's like
brilliant, right?
it's a brilliant like career highlight for us as a group and for Chris, because one thing that I noticed immediately were Chris's lyrics, delivered by a master storyteller, Johnny Cash, and I think it just added so much to just like Chris's songwriting was just at a completely different level than so many of us, so I felt that the lyrical weight of that song was really on display when Johnny Cash covered it. So yeah, it was a huge career highlight for us for
You guys
sure.
would take a lot of. I love the fact that you were taking chances too. I mean, Jesus Christ Pose in certain parts of the country would have been like, some people were like, what do you mean? What is that? Especially in that
Yeah.
period of time.
Yeah, well,
Um,
I think at that time, like, a lot of the bands in the 80s and 90s, like a lot of them just had their own sound, like Sonic Youth didn't sound like anyone, Scratch Acid didn't sound like anyone, Big Black didn't sound like anyone else. Jane's Addiction, Guns N' Roses, and then all of our Seattle bands, like everyone sounded pretty unique. So I guess that's just a byproduct of the times that we came up in. And we weren't like intentionally trying to sound different. It's just that's how it came out. We were
yeah,
we were we were really trying to express ourselves in the most honest way possible. So yeah, but yeah, you're right. I think a lot of the groups back then just stood on their own.
Yeah, they really did. It was that whole thing where it was very individual, but it was cool because everybody was, supporting and rooting for each other. There was something about that which I love. But that, I mean, like we said, the thing that was so many people will bring up, and you know this too, is just the time changes and signatures of the music that are so great. Because
Thank you.
I mean, like Rusty Cage, we talked about Jesus Christ Post, even though all the songs on that album, and you've co-written stuff on all of it. It's amazing. It just, for me, and I've never really gotten to tell you this, just like how blown away I am, because you're one of my favorite drummers on the planet, without a question. But you're a good singer. You're a songwriter. You can do so many things, which I think is just so great. And that was the thing about Soundgarden. Everybody wrote, that was in the band, which was so cool. It's so exciting because, for me, it blew my mind. 30 years since Superunknown, which...
That's right. Oh, my God.
Was the breakthrough record for the band. I mean, it was certainly being set up, with songs like Outshined was doing really well. But by the time Superunknown was released, straight in at #1, it was an unbelievable record. You co-wrote Mailman and Limo Wreck and all these great songs on that record. Talk to me about, since we're celebrating its 30th anniversary, tell me about that period of you guys going in, working with Michael Beinhorn. Kim has said in the past that it was like, you guys went in there and he worked with you guys, but you guys kind of got your own way on everything because you were, but he was very helpful too, right? I mean, it was
absolutely. No, I mean, looking back, it was a fantastic combination of people that came together. Jason Casaro, Adam Casper, Sam Hofstede, and then of course Brendan O'Brien came in and just did the most beautiful mix ever. It was a time in our career. I always consider it kind of like it was post Nevermind. All the bands around that time, like Nevermind was such a phenomenon, and a big reason it is because it was so good. Like the songwriting was so fucking good.
It was.
Performances were so fucking good. So I felt like, personally, I don't know if the other guys felt like that, but it's like, okay, we gotta up our game here, man.
Yeah.
It's like these kids are just like they're taking over here. But we, after Bad Motorfinger, we went straight on the road. We were touring just constantly, and any breaks that we had, we would just hole up in our houses and write songs. We'd get together when we could, work on stuff. So we didn't really have like everything fleshed out by the time we got into the studio to record Superunknown with Michael Beinhorn. But I do remember like he came out, we met him, and I was a big fan of Material, this group that he played with in New York.
Busting Out, remember that? Yeah, that was good. Yeah, it's great.
And he worked with he did Rocket with Herbie Hancock. He worked with Bill Laswell. So I really liked his credentials, and I personally wanted to work with like a fellow musician / producer guy, and he fit the bill for that. So yeah, he came early on and listened to some stuff, listened to it live, and then, by the time, we got into the studio together at Bad Animals here in Seattle, we had kind of most of the material ready to go. And then at some point, he recommended that we write some more tunes, and that's when Black Hole Sun appeared. But the sessions themselves took a long time. It took like 4 or 5 months to make that album, which was really long for us. And I kind of checked out a little bit like midway through, the recording process, when they were spending, a week on the guitars for Limo Wreck or, stuff like that. It's just like, oh God, I got to get out of here.
Yeah.
Because I like working a little bit faster. I'm all, about the performance. But so it's like, I felt like it was sort of like getting away from us a little bit. Like I didn't know if like, it was going to turn out as great as I knew the songs were. But once Brendan came in and mixed it, and we listened to the playback, like, start to finish. It wasn't sequenced yet, but we heard all the songs that were mixed, and I took that cassette home and I listened to it like over and over and over again. I played it for my wife, April, and she's like, this is like amazing, and so I knew like deep down in my bones that like that this was really, really good. Like we pulled it off. But yeah, the band was always super headstrong, super confident about what we brought to the table. And we never, Chris especially, if Chris got an arrangement down that he came up with or that we came up with as a band, that was the arrangement. We weren't going to change it for anyone.
Yeah.
So there was a little bit of butting heads with Michael in terms of that kind of stuff. And after a while, he just stopped like trying to, have us change things, because I think he, eventually he understood like what, the type of band we were, like super headstrong and, very super confident. But yeah, it was a really interesting time because, the label wanted us to, kick it up a notch. And I felt like our songs at that time were different than Bad Motor Finger. Like there was some more textures, some more elements. And then, Chris dropped Black Hole Sun on us, and we're just like, I remember listening to his demo that he recorded on ADAT, and I was just like, this is amazing. And the arrangement was exactly like we recorded it. We didn't change a thing other than our individual performances. But yeah, 30 years, man. It's been 30 years.
Can you believe it? And also, one of the things that was really interesting about Superunknown was, after Chris had done those demos that came out as a Ponzier EP, the Stuffer singles,
that's right.
And Seasons being just one of the most beautiful songs, so great. But even when I listened to the demo Spoon Man, it's like the arrangement is there. It's already there. It's just like But I think doing Seasons and made Chris, I guess, and I want to know if you'd agree with me, made him comfortable being more introspective with some of the lyrics and some of the things. It was beautiful.
Well,
that change.
I mean, Chris was writing acoustic music for a long time. He recorded tons of stuff on acoustic guitar, guitar and voice, things like that. So it was definitely in his wheelhouse, and he worked on that stuff a lot. He wasn't just a, strictly hard rock guy. Like he had so many layers to his music and his songwriting. So I personally was not surprised at how great Seasons was, but it's just an example of like a perfect song, like perfect songwriting, it's like where everything blends into the next part perfectly. The lyrics are amazing. The guitar part is like, you could just play that guitar part on its own and that would just be like an amazing song. So yeah, I was blown away by the song, but yeah, ultimately I wasn't really surprised, just because I knew that he could do that kind of stuff.
Yeah, it's amazing because, and then songs like Fell on Black Days and The Day I Tried to Live, and those become, there was a lot of different directions, and like Suicide songs on the record that were, that album is a perfect album in my opinion. I love that record so much. It's one of my favorite albums ever recorded.
Thank you.
It's it's just an amazing time. It's cool that you told me the story about the whole thing with Michael Beinhorn, and because he'd worked on Mother's Milk too. But Material. I used to listen
Material.
To that New York stuff, right? And
totally.
Totally. Was, that stuff that was like on celluloid records and Z records and all that like downtown East Village stuff that people were doing back.
Yeah, the drummer for Material, Anton Fear, I think his name is.
Yeah.
He was a really big influence on me growing up. So I personally dug his musical career. So it was definitely a good fit for us. And we had talked with a bunch of different producers that wanted to produce Superunknown, Rick Rubin being one of them. And we're just like, we want to get someone that's kind of more, in the same headspace as us. So
A musician,
Yeah.
right? Like somebody who's
A
actually
musician. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
yeah.
So looking back, that was definitely the right choice.
It was without a question. Who were some of the any other producers you can remember offhand that you'd met with? Or
Gosh, I think there was a few other ones, but yeah, I mean, ultimately,
yeah, we went with Michael, and it was great.
went with Michael.
And then Adam
Yeah.
Casper, of course, you worked with for a long time.
Adam,
So
yeah.
it was
After
great
that
as well.
record, we really had a great working relationship with Adam when we did Down on the Upside with him. And then when we did King Animal in 2011, he helped us out with that
Which
as well as along with Nate Yacino.
yeah, Adam's a great guy. I remember him driving me back to the airport in Seattle. You know what I mean? At night out with like Steve Turner and Kim. You know what I mean?
That's a long night.
Yeah, it was quite a long night. But it's amazing. Now, Matt, people will realize what kind of drummer you were. You went on in that period of the 90s, to work on, do a bunch of tracks, like I think 7 tracks on Smashing Pumpkins' Adore. You played on the Prodigy's.
Oh, yeah, that's right.
And then Prodigy's Fat of the Land album as well. You played on.
Okay, that's a weird story. We toured with Prodigy. Did the big day out in like 94 or 96
in Australia,
or something like that. In Australia. And Liam was the main sort of DJ guy in the band, and we would hang out, and he was a really, really cool guy. And he recorded my drums. Like he would always put up this mic system and record me playing live. So that's how I got on the record. It was never like a
so in other words, he took a piece of
session
that
kind of thing.
That's great.
Yeah.
And I look back on that, and I think it's really amazing. Also, I know that you guys were responsible too. I mean, this is stepping back a minute, but my Jersey Brothers Monster Magnet, it was cool. You guys brought them to the attention of A&M Records, which was a great thing that you guys did because.
Oh man, we love those guys. Dave Windorf and John McBain. They were big supporters of us, and we love Spine of God, that record that they did. Ben and I especially love that record. So we got to tour with those guys in the mid 90s quite a bit. And then John moved to Seattle, and that's when we kind of dug into the
Hater, yeah.
Wellwater Conspiracy first, and then the Hater Project.
Yeah, which is great. It's amazing because I remember in there swinging the bat for Monster Magnet with Negasonic Teenage Warhead to make it a buzz clip when I was in the music department at MTV, like actually helping pick the videos.
Nice.
And, we got that in there, but it was on Space Lord on the next album that actually broke through for them, which was cool. But even Negasonic, they're such a great band. Negasonic Teenage Warhead also had that chorus that was Tales of Brave Ulysses by Cream, which was like, which was cool. I mean, that's all right. It's okay I love that. It's rock and roll. You can borrow some things. But I love those guys, and such a great band from my old neck of the woods there. I gotta say, it was so great that when the band broke up the first time, which was one of the most upsetting days for me as a fan.
Me too.
Me
too.
I was seriously busted up when I got the phone call. I was like, it was a heavy thing for a guy who loved you so much and loved the band. But I was so happy that you jumped on the Yield tour with Pearl Jam. It just felt like the natural thing. Talk to me about.
Well, gosh, that was what, 98. Soundgarden had been, we'd been broken up for, I don't know, 6 or 8 months or something like that. And I dove right into my Wellwater Conspiracy project with John and Ben. and I knew that Stone Gossard had a record label, Loose Grooves. So I was going to call Stone up to see if he wanted to put out this record. And I called Kelly Curtis's office, and Eddie answered the phone, or somebody gave Eddie the phone, because they had a tour booked but Jack Irons decided he couldn't do the tour. So it was a little bit of a panic mode when I first talked to those guys, because the tour was going to start in, gosh, I don't know, maybe a month or something like that. And so Eddie was like, "Hey, what are you doing this summer?" And I'm like, not much. I'm, just kicking around here in town. And so that's kind of how it started. Just, real nonchalant, casual. But yeah, I had to kind of dive right into their catalog, and I wasn't really familiar with stuff other than their first 2 albums. So Kelly Curtis gave me all the CDs, and so I had to learn, I had to learn a whole bunch of songs like in a pretty short amount of time. But I just went right out on tour with those guys, and they were, awesome to me.
Yeah.
And they've always been great to me and my family, and great dudes, great organization. So yeah, it felt nice to just go straight back into kind of a big rock band like that, that tours and performs and makes records, So yeah, I was real fortunate that that I that Eddie intercepted the phone call.
That's a great story and a great moment because, I mean, it's incredible. And let's just talk about Temple of the Dog, because I know,
Yeah.
and we'll get back into Pearl Jam too. But man, those shows you did when
Oh,
you played those two I saw in San Francisco were two of my favorite
yeah.
shows ever.
Yeah, Bill Graham Auditorium. Yeah, those were awesome shows. I mean, uh we were sort of just like it was sort of ramping up at that point. Like we started in Philly, and then we played yes, we started in the East Coast, and then we worked our way west. And it felt like by the time we got to the San Francisco shows, like it was on, man. It
Man,
was Chris was having a great time. We were all just so psyched to be doing this, just to be playing this song live, because the record was just a one-off studio project. And I was just assuming it was always just going to live on as an album. But yeah, so yeah, those shows were so great. But yeah, I do remember the San Francisco ones as being memorable in terms of like, whoa, you know,
yeah, I mean, I gotta
like
tell you,
it came off really good. I just remember that, and I remember playing at Madison Square Garden, and it was a full house. Like people were like in tears, standing, and it just really resonated with me at that point you know how much the music meant to other people. And I think ultimately as musicians, when we create this piece of work, a record, songs, whatever, um, we never think of it in these terms, but I always sometimes it feels like we've created an organism. We've created a living thing that becomes a part of other people's life.
yeah.
So that really hit home for me. Those feelings hit home for me when we played MSG.
Yeah, that had to. And
Yeah.
it's crazy. I almost missed the first show. Well, at least part of it, because I was doing a morning show, and it was a Friday night, the first show. So I was tired by the end of the week doing a bunch of things, and I fell asleep on the couch. And then I woke up. There was a text from Mike, text from Chris. Are you coming? What's going on? And I literally walked in right when the first song started.
Good
But
timing, bro.
it was, and then I went the next night too. It was so, those shows were like, for me, it was a dream because I love that record so much, and to have you guys performing it live. But also, Matt, the covers you guys did, I
Yeah.
almost
Yeah.
fell off my chair when you guys went into Holy Holy by David Bowie. I mean, I was
Uh,
like, and I know that was
my idea.
you and I are both
That was
Bowie.
me.
We're Bowie fanatics. You and I love Bowie, right? So I was like, I could not believe, I was floored because it's such a great tune, B-side
Well,
of Diamond Dogs.
yeah, everyone's kind of like threw in their kind of their dreams cover songs. Jeff had a song by God, what was it? It was by Lives Love, or I forget which one. But he had a couple songs that he wanted to do. Mike Stone. But my contributions were Holy Holy and Baby Lemonade by Sid Barrett.
Yeah, what
And
cool songs.
one of the reasons was that Chris was a huge Sid Barrett guy when he was young, and he turned me on to that stuff. I was familiar with kind of post Sid Barrett Pink Floyd, but once I heard Pipers at the Gate of Dawn, and
See Emily play, Arnold Lane, those
yeah,
songs are
oh my
all
God, just
incredible.
like some of the greatest songs ever. And then, you know, Madcap Laughs and you know, like his solo stuff too just
Yeah.
blew my mind. So yeah, it was really fun to and then I think we also did Jump Into the Fire
Yeah, Nilsson.
by Nilsson. Yeah, we did that one as
And you
well.
did
So
Free,
it was
man.
cool.
You did
We did Free.
Free.
Yeah,
I'm a mover.
that's I'm a movie. Yeah, yeah, yeah. So that was Jeff's baby.
That song is so great. It was so
Great
cool.
song. Yeah,
But it was
yeah.
amazing how everybody, like Achilles' Last Stand, like off Presidents, like the,
We attempted that song.
but it was great.
It's that's like covering the Beatles. It's like, yeah, okay, well maybe that wasn't the best choice. But we also did War Pigs, you
Yeah,
know. I remember
Fascination
that one.
Street. Fascination.
Fascination Street, yeah,
I
yeah,
mean, it was
yeah,
just such a cool cross section of covers, interspersed with all those great songs from the album. It
yeah,
was like a
yeah.
magical set.
Well, I think we had like what 11, there's like 11 songs on the album, so we did have to pad the set, so to
Yeah.
speak.
But those shows were, and I need to ask you this too, because as a fan, this has always been in the back of my mind. Did anybody record any of the shows? Do you think they'll
Yeah,
ever
yeah,
become
yeah.
available?
We don't know yet. But yeah, everything was recorded, so hopefully someday we can release a live album, proper live album.
Because that would be, I mean, that is just, those shows were like, I mean, I was like, I think I was, seriously, I was, I was elevated in some way. It was just like levitating, and just because I was enjoying myself so much, because it was so good. You guys
Cool.
sounded so great, and just to hear those songs, I thought I'd never hear live, and I think your fans
Cool.
felt the same way. But those covers too, yeah, it's just incredible, So I'm so glad that you got to do that. And when the band got back together, also, for at the time of King Animal, and you were doing both bands, I mean, you were kind of trying to figure out how was that, because that had to be
Oh man,
a
it
lot of
was
pressure
crazy.
on you,
What was I thinking? But I wasn't gonna say no to Soundgarden, but I had to make sure that I wasn't double booked, which I kind of was in 2014. I couldn't make one Soundgarden tour because I was already uh, obligated to do a Pearl Jam tour. But it was crazy. I mean, I had young kids at the time, and I came home from one tour and went straight out on another tour. Luckily, my wife, once again, holding down the fort, taking
Yeah.
care of business at home.
April,
But
you've been together for so many years now too,
yeah,
right?
no, I met her in '85. Yeah, yeah, she's my longtime girl for sure. But she knew the drill. Like she knew that this is my career, and we make our living by touring and traveling and whatnot. It's almost like having a parent who's in the military or something like that. Like the kids eventually, like they accept it and they get used to it, but it's not the norm. So like it did like it was a little tough on my family life, in all honesty. But they they understood that I was really happy to be out there doing it. So but yeah, it was a little bit of a scheduling nightmare because I was playing in two headlining bands,
Yeah. Two of the
which is
greatest of all time.
which is kind of rare.
Yeah, it is. I mean, it's amazing. I think about it sometimes, and I think about how the talent in both bands, and two of the greatest frontmen of all time.
Yeah.
And, I mean, two of my favorite singers ever.
Absolutely.
And it was great. I got to meet your daughter. She was with Lily Cornell. So,
Oh, nice.
at
Nice.
Hana Festival. So I talked to her there, and it was cool.
Nice.
But I love that. Again, it's great with Pearl Jam have gone on to do contribute to the writing as well. And I've seen Eddie has said they try to elevate themselves to because just your ability to write. And Stone told me that in writing the new single Dark Matter that you literally came in with this beat and it was blew their minds.
Pretty much, yeah. I mean, Stone always likes to work off of a drum part, like he always encourages me to kind of play something, and then he'll, take that home and write something. But I think we were done with one day's session down. We recorded at Shangri-La in Malibu with Andrew Watt, And the studio was so fun. That place was amazing. Yeah, so I think we had finished for one day, and I was just kind of messing around on the drums, and then Andrew was like, "Well, play that again." So I sort of like remembered what I played. A lot of times my playing is sometimes just in the moment. Like I don't always like uh kind of work out what I'm going to play. I'm more of a performance-based uh drummer. So I remembered what I was doing. And then yeah, so they recorded it. And I think Jeff took it home that night and came up with the guitar riff, and we recorded it the next day. Yeah.
And it's amazing, I think, back about it. And before we get into the new album, can we talk about Third Secret, too? Because I love this.
Sure.
And you know what's great? I was listening because your last solo record album was great, too, and you've released some singles. But, I had that conversation with Chris Novoselic, and I said, man, it's like I just love I still like react with this unbelievable surprise at your songwriting. And I don't know why, because you've always written great songs. When I say that, I mean that in a very positive way. I'm like, God, Matt is so talented, man. I'm just like, I love all the things that you have the ability to do, Matt. It's just incredible.
Thank you.
And I love that you're singing. That you're singing with the ladies on the record too.
I did a little bit of singing, but it's on our second album.
On the second,
I wrote a song called "Climb Aboard" that I sang with Jennifer. Yeah, so it's been a really fun project for me, and Kim and Chris, just to get together and make music together, and Bubba Dupree from Void, for crying out loud.
Bubba's great.
Christ. Bubba's amazing.
Yeah.
So he's like an untapped reservoir of like ideas, music, songs. So it's been really fun to work with Bubba. But yeah, that project came together, I guess, like end of 2021, and we're still kind of in pandemic mode. Like no one knew like what was gonna, how that was going to end. Yeah, we got together at a studio here in Seattle, and I mean the songs just kind of flowed. I had after we did our first album, I came back from a Pearl Jam tour in 2023, I guess, or not yet, 22, and we recorded another album in like 2 months, or wrote and recorded something, and we're gonna hopefully do that at the end of this year, beginning of next year, make another album together, and hopefully go out and play some shows.
That'd be great. We'd love to see you because I love to see you play with that whole group, and I always love to see you and Kim working together, and Chris, of course, everybody there, which is really incredible. You know what else I love? One of your biggest fans, obviously, too, is our mutual friend Taylor Momsen. Who's just, I love what you and Kim did on Death by Rock and Roll, man. Only Love Can Save Me Now. What a great song.
Great song.
Yeah, talk to me about when you. I know that you guys brought her out on tour and brought the band out on tour.
Yeah, she was on our last tour in 2017. But we became aware of the Pretty Reckless, I guess, around that time, 2015 or 16. It was brought to our attention that there's this band that really loves Soundgarden. And so we checked them out, and we really liked their stuff, and we were really impressed by Taylor. Like she just has a grit and a fierceness to her voice that is right up my alley. So her and Ben, her co-writer, I think they write a lot of this stuff together. They wrote this song that they wanted Kim and I to play on, and that was kind of in mid-pandemic as well. So it was a weird time for everyone. But we felt really fortunate that we got to work with those guys, after 2017. And then, Taylor, like she stepped up to the plate when we did the Chris tribute concert. I had another singer that I wanted to sing, Rusty Cage with us, and Drawing Flies, and Loud Love. And then he couldn't do it at the last minute. So Taylor stepped up, and with maybe like a day's notice, we were doing the dress rehearsal, and then the show was the next day. And Rusty Cage is not an easy song to sing. The timing is really, really tricky. But but she stepped up to the plate and crushed it, So it was really fun to work with her, and she's a huge Soundgarden fan. And we're hoping we can do something with her in the future. Maybe not Soundgarden related, but just some kind of fun hard rock project.
That'd be cool because she's the real deal, man. I love her. I think
She really is. Yeah.
She just crushes it live in those records.
Yeah. Yeah.
And she's got the soul of it. It's 100% real and legitimate. I love her.
She's the real deal. She's the real deal. And I think her career is just going up and up. So it's been really fun to play a small part in that.
Yeah. Yeah. She's amazing. I got to tell you, and I'm going to say this, I think the new Pearl Jam album is one of the greatest albums that I've heard in years. I mean,
really? Wow.
I know it's not out for a little bit, but getting to hear the album in its entirety twice last night and then on the treadmill today. But I listen, because I like records I can exercise too, But the record is just, first of all, the single blew me away when it came out. But man, I got to tell you, Matt, this is one of the greatest rock records. It's been like quite a few years for me where I've just went, this is the best record. I can't believe how great it is. When you start with Scared of Fear, it's just unbelievable.
Yeah.
That opening track just comes out swinging in every way, and those incredible Eddie's voice and the lyrics and the music and everything. Talk to me.
It was a fun project because we got together once over at Andrew's house in, gosh, when was that? 22, I guess. Like summer 22. And it was a quick, like, I don't know, a week or 2 weeks or something. And the way that Andrew likes to work is he likes to be in the room with the band. Like he had like a mixing console, like 10 feet from the drums or something. I'm like, how's this going to work? So it came together really quick, and a lot of the stuff was made up on the spot, which is another way that he likes to work. And I like to work that way as well. So it was also one of those situations, like, I don't really know what I have here. It's like, I know I played all these tunes and I tracked a whole bunch of stuff. But Andrew's really, he really understands the importance of, performance in the studio, which is kind of how the way I operate. And so we were on a really good working relationship kind of from day one. Like, he didn't really like have me do more than like 3 takes of a song or something like that. So I liked that immediately. But yeah, it was just like, it went by pretty quick. And once I heard the final mixes and the sequencing and everything, it definitely sounds like a super solid Pearl Jam album.
Yeah, I mean, I love many albums from the band, but I think your fans and people in general need a great record like this right now in their lives. They really do. We need an incredible rock record. And it just like, those 11 songs in a row, they don't let up. You don't get to like 9 and 10 and go, oh, they front-loaded these tracks. It's like a great record all the way through. Yeah, there's that, I mean, it's unbelievable. And that beautiful song that Eddie wrote about his daughter, Something Special, which is like, God, I mean, that song was like, my girlfriend and I were like, I won't lie, we were tearing up a bit, to be honest with you. But I mean, everything from, React, Respond, and Running, which is like, just like, there's so much power in that. And things like Wreckage, which is like got a petty vibe to it, but it's just...
Yeah. I think that's one of my favorites on the album is Wreckage. I think that's going to be a single. I'm not exactly sure, but that one came out really good. Yeah. I really like that one.
What are your other favorites on it? Can't Fail is another one I love. I mean, there's so much. And then the ending, Setting Sun, is so cool.
That's a good one.
I mean, the records, I'm blown away by it.
Yeah, I don't have all the titles.
Yeah, well, because I know that happens, too. Like as you work on the record and you come back but what you did,
I think it really holds up. We didn't have we had a few leftover songs, but Andrew wanted to do a 10 song record, 11 song record, like concise, compact. So I'm really glad that that was the idea behind, like just doing, like picking the best stuff and making sure the performances were great and, giving Eddie, a lot to work with in terms of arrangements, things like that. But he was in the room with us. Like he's definitely a part of the whole process. So it was great having everyone in the room together, along with Andrew. Andrew straps on a guitar and he tracks with you.
Yeah, which is great too. I mean, obviously he's a mega fan. You know what I mean? And
but he's a mega talent too. Like,
well, yeah, that's what I mean. Like, yeah, and he worked on Earthling with Eddie too. But I mean, so he's done so much stuff, and he's obviously a huge rock fan, but he's incredibly talented because who mixed the record? Did he do that as well, or was that
his guy mixed the record? I forget his name, but he uses this one guy to do all of his records, and he did a fantastic job as well. But yeah, Andrew comes from like this new generation of producers that have this ability to use, Pro Tools, whatever DAW you're using. And it's almost like they're so quick at it, and they're able to like edit on the spot, and they're able to like play back, a take like as if it was, an album mix. It's like they have all these templates set up, and so it's really fun to work with younger producers in the studio these days for me, because I come from the analog, 24 track 2-inch tape world.
Yeah, of course.
where you have to like, have a performance from beginning to end, and that's what's on the album. And if you have to edit something, you're cutting tape. So it's really fun for me to witness kind of this younger generation. I sound like an old fart. Sorry.
We're both dads, you know what I mean, and we know, but it's true. But it's interesting.
I mean, I work with the DAWs here in my studio, but it takes me forever to get something down. But yeah, it's been really fun working with him, and there's a few local guys that I work with here in Seattle. So yeah, it's a different sort of like skill set,
Yeah.
than my generation of guys and girls.
It's amazing. Matt, if you was there ever somebody that you wanted to collaborate with, maybe that over the years, even if they're no longer with us, that?
Oh man. Well, I mean, I would love to do something with Jimmy Page, but not Zeppelin, but
he's a huge fan of yours, though. I mean,
I'm a huge fan of his. Are you kidding me?
Yeah.
But I got to work with like Tony Iommi and Geddy Lee.
That's right. You were on both
Peter
those.
Frampton, and just like all these. I just have to pinch myself sometimes
when I think
about like, Tony. I got to work with Tony, for crying out loud.
Yeah.
I mean, he was like, he's the king of the type of music that I was doing at Soundgarden. I mean, we loved Sabbath, So it's been great to meet all these amazing heroes that I grew up listening to, and having them be familiar with, my bands. I mean, one of my heroes is Tony Williams, jazz drummer. And I met him in '94 at the Grammys when when Soundgarden won 2 Grammys. And I think I thanked my mom or something, when we won one of our Grammys. And I saw him in the parking lot as I was leaving, and I just like immediately ran up to him. It's like, okay, here's my chance to talk to Tony Williams. I got to do it.
Yeah.
And he was familiar with my band, So it's just like it's just full circle moments like that are they were meaningful then, and they're still meaningful now.
Yeah, like playing with Geddy on my favorite. I mean, that must have been great too, because
it was amazing. Yeah. And then getting to like hang out with Neil Peart, and I was a huge Rush fan growing up, and they were like the sweetest guys. Like they're just like they're neighborhood buddies, like they still hang out together, or Alex and Geddy do. And then I got to host one of his appearances for his book tour that he just did, for his book My Effin' Life, which is fantastic.
Yeah, did you host? I saw the one with Jack Black here in L.A., which was great, man. It was so cool. Yeah, because I was a Rush fan. Like I remember, I discovered them when I was a kid on a sampler album with Fly By Night and Anthem, and I was like, I gotta go buy that now. And I literally, mowed a lawn and went out and bought that record. Listening to Bytor and the Snow Dog, and In the End, and all that great stuff.
Yeah, great stuff.
So, It was great, and how was that fun? To do that
It was nerve-wracking. I was so friggin' nervous, man, because I'm not a public speaker at all. So yeah, I mean, I had they give everyone kind of an outline of how the show goes. But once I got there, it was great. Getty made me feel really comfortable, and he kind of did most of the heavy lifting, which is great. But I told him early on, it's like, I'm probably going to talk about Neil a lot. Is that okay?
Yeah.
And he's like, yeah, that's fine. Talk about Neil.
Yeah,
So
I mean, the story is the greatest of Neil showing up with a no shirt on in the Pinto with his drums and garbage bags. It's like just one of the greatest things ever.
18-inch kick drums. 18-inch kicks. So that's for all the drum nerds out there. They're like, that's cool.
It's so unbelievably cool. It's great. Matt, I've had so much fun today doing this with you. I just want to. It flew by because there's so much to talk about. Matt,
I just want to thank you for the years of support, not only with me, but like my generation, of musicians and bands. Like, you were a go-to guy that helped us on MTV, helped us on the radio. And, you were real instrumental in a lot of us getting an audience. So I really thank you as well, my man.
No, I appreciate that, Matt. It means the world to me. I'm very grateful I've had the platforms to do it and, and could share a true, honest love of music and rock and roll. And,
absolutely.
And I know that you and I share that. We appreciate so many different also styles of music too, which is really cool.
Man.
Music's everything. You know what I mean?
Well, I noticed that you just put up a tribute to Eric Carmen.
Yeah.
From the Raspberries, right?
Yeah,
we just lost him.
I know. I love the Raspberries so much. Those are greatest. Dude. Those records. I mean, those albums too, like Fresh and Side 3 and Starting Over, were like they're so British Invasion and Beach Boys inspired, and Dave Clark 5. It was beautiful. The songs were great. He's a great songwriter.
Amazing. Yeah. I mean, I love that era of pop music, and he was right up there with the all-time greats. So I just wanted to give you a little kudos for that.
Yeah. Thank you for that, Matt, because man, I love that band. I went, like what I said, I went to see them 2007 in the reunion.
Oh, wow.
And got to talk to, it was all the Raspberries, but I got to sit there and talk to Eric and those guys about the songs they wrote and what it was,
Huge.
It was a big deal for me. You know what I mean? It was incredible. Because, I mean, the first time you heard Go All the Way, you were like, whoa, it just blew out of the speakers when you were a kid.
The guitar riff, man, the vocals. Oh,
yeah.
And then the chorus.
Yeah.
The chorus comes in, it's like, oh, this is a completely different song. It's beautiful.
Yeah, it is. It's just amazing. So that was a sad day, I got to admit. So had to post that. And I saw that you had also posted on your story Go All the Way, which made me really happy.
Yeah.
I was like, yes. See, we appreciate great music. That was a great era for pop, of course, too.
Oh,
you know what I mean?
Amazing.
Everything.
Amazing. Yeah.
There's so much stuff we could talk about. But Matt, thank you for taking the time. I want you to know
my pleasure.
How much I appreciate you. And I'll definitely see you,
brother.
And I'll see you soon on the road, okay?
I'll see you soon. I'll see you soon, man.
That's great. Thank you. Matt Cameron, everybody.
Thank you.
He's the best. KLOS, new and approved. I'm Matt Pinfield. Thanks for watching and listening.